Lynn, your adult coach. Today's topic is one I've been struggling with myself, and I'm sure that many out there, because I see it on the Facebook pages that I visit, have a hard time with dealing with all of the challenges that come with having a child with a differently wired brain. And frankly, let's admit that they don't even have to be all that differently wired for us to struggle with forgiving them at times. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an understanding what forgiveness is. Then we'll go to how to connect to our children and connect to ourselves so that we can find a pathway forward. And then what's the practice that we use to get to forgiveness? The first thought is that forgiveness really is a decision that we make. We decide that we're going to let go of the feelings of resentment, of the blaming, and even maybe some of the revenge towards someone who has hurt or harmed us. That's one way to think about forgiveness, is that we're just letting go of the feelings, of the thoughts that are creating the feelings, that feeling thought combination that creates those emotions that are no fun. They're just not good to feel. And another way of looking at it is that to forgive is to pardon or excuse someone from blame for an offense or a misdeed. And I know that that doesn't always go down so well as a parent. I mean, we definitely want to hold our children accountable, our adult children accountable. Though some might argue that we can't hold anyone accountable but ourselves. But we do want to have our kids experience the consequences of taking an action that has a negative impact on other people. And so that whole excuse part is a hard word for me to swallow sometimes, and I just want to reframe it a little bit so that we can go forward somewhere. When my kids were younger, they'd say, "Mom," and of course they'd expect me to come in and mediate some wrongdoing that had occurred between them. And of course, I wasn't always there, so I didn't always have the facts. I didn't always know how could I know? So I read this book, Teaching Your Children Values, that Linda and Richard Eyre wrote over 30 years ago, or 25 at least. And in it, they advocate that we put our children at the peace place and have them resolve whatever conflict is going on. So they had a peace bench that wasn't particularly comfortable to sit on. I had our children go to the steps going down to the basement and sit on them until they each accepted responsibility for what had happened, that they expressed regret to each other, and that they repaired it in some way, and usually a hug or some kind of a, let's make up for this, and a promise that they were going to do better in the future. So that was their 3-step process that really worked well, actually. It got me out of the middle of it, and it gave them actions to take. They knew these were the steps that they needed to go through before they could come off the peace stairs. And sometimes they'd be down there for 20 or 30 minutes, one not being willing to accept their responsibility for the part of the problem, and the other one, ready to go, but waiting for the other person. So it was an interesting process to witness. And I think it taught them some things. I do recommend this book for anyone that has younger children. Why do we regret? Why do we express forgiveness? Experience forgiveness? The bottom line is that it really does help us. It helps us because it requires that we go to a higher level. It requires us to level up. We have to become a better version of ourselves to start thinking in this way. And so in that, I think it's an opportunity to grow and to actually learn and enjoy life more going forward. So I think it falls into the learning category of the 10 domains, is that we need to understand, how do we get to this forgiveness? And the answer is we have to kind of take ourselves to a different level. It doesn't mean, however, that if the perpetrator did some wrong that was egregious and was really harmful to the other person, that we have to agree to be in their presence a lot. I mean, if they have demonstrated as, who they are, we need to believe them. I think that's what Maya Angelou expresses when she says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And so sometimes we do need to distance ourselves from the other person. But again, this process of forgiveness is really for ourselves. We may have to set boundaries with that person or protect ourselves if necessary. And if somebody has done something that has caused harm or is truly an act, of predation, sexual predation, physical harm, those types of things, we do want to protect ourselves and our loved ones from them. So we do want to believe that they're going to do that. This is not about just forgiving everybody and letting it go. So, but at the same time, we need to forgive them, but they don't have to change. That's the tricky part, because, well, especially it's handy to know this, because if we have to forgive somebody that's already passed on, it's a good thing, because frankly, they're not going to change. And in some cases, people just, it's hard to change, and maybe they're just never going to do that. So, but what we have to do is we have to stop hurting ourselves. I mean, we forgive others when we're just tired of hurting ourselves. We have to let go of the story that we're telling ourselves, because, it's not, our forgiving them isn't going to change them at all. What it does let us do, though, is it lets us get out of the drama triangle. And I'm sure you've heard of the drama triangle before. The victim, persecutor, and rescuer are the three parts of the drama triangle. So we need to notice if we're playing the victim, that's if we're overwhelmed, we're struggling, or we're afraid. The person who wants to create their life intentionally asks the question, what result do I want to create? And we'll be mapping this in a steer map in a second, but that's the question. If you're the victim, what result do you want to create? If you're playing the persecutor, that's like, you shouldn't do this and rah, rah, rah. They are rigid, they're threatened, they're feeling very defensive, they're angry. Sometimes sarcasm comes out and they're feeling very righteous. Well, they should know by now not to ... What we want to do is become a challenger on that. And that is, how can I shift my own thinking to get my desired result? I mean, we have to challenge ourselves when that story is playing inside of our head. They shouldn't do that. They should know by now. And haven't we gone over this enough? And it's not fair that I have to pay for everything. And, all those types of persecutor types of roles. Or by any chance, are we falling into that rescuer role? And that's where we just want to make everything, right. Oh, I'll make sure that I don't ever trigger that action again. And that's when you end up walking on eggshells in your own household, making sure that you do everything so that the other person never experiences whatever it is that triggers them. And that rescuer role, is sort of, it suggests that you know better, that you're powerful enough to prevent the environment from occurring, something happening in the outside in the situation, and that, you know better than they know. So we're going to do it this way because what happened the last time. Instead of playing that rescuer role, what we want to do is become more of a coach and say, what questions can I ask to best support them in their own learning? And if we can move from that rescuer role to the coach role, we can get out of that drama triangle and really make some moves, make some improvements in the way that things happen in our lives. So one of the things, though, I just want to caution us, and that is that we just don't want to substitute a positive thought that we don't believe. And let's look at how that just might happen. Let's say here's something happened, the infraction, and our thought is, oh, he's doing the best he can, right? But do we really believe that? I mean, is this truly the best he can do, or is it possible that he just might be able to grow and better manage this type of situation in the future? So that's where we go back and forth. Oh, maybe he can control it, maybe he can't control it. And when we just, we just don't decide, we're trying to believe something that we're not sure is true. So we don't hold them accountable, we don't do the things, we don't solve the problems, nothing changes. And that's what I want to caution us against, is that let's just not, default to a thought that we think is going to help, but we really don't believe it. What we want to do is give ourselves the gift of writing down all of our thoughts, just doing a thought download, finding out what's going on, what our brain is offering us, what our brain, the one that, wants to protect us, keep us safe, keep us efficient, and keep us searching for pleasure, because that's going to propagate the species. And we know that that's, what kept all of us in humankind alive. We want to move to the prefrontal cortex and actually plan and sort out what we're going to do. So let me just offer a thought, and trust me, I don't know that this is going to work for anybody else but me. I mean, this is the thought that I like to go to, is that we have this problem, the situation is, some problem happening, some infraction. The thought is, we'll figure this out. Maybe we can figure this out. Maybe you can even put the word maybe in there. Maybe we can figure this out together. And that makes me feel activated, like I am energized. I am ready to tackle this. When I say we're going to figure this out, I am ready. And so I'm going to advocate the collaborative, proactive solutions process that Dr. Ross Green promotes. And I just think it's golden. It's where you figure out what the situation is, then you ask them the empathy step, how they're thinking and feeling about it. Then you figure out where you are in terms of your thoughts and feelings. And then at the end, you try to collaborate together and you find that overlap and you agree to take the next step. That's how we figure it out. We agree to do an experiment. We take that scientific perspective and say, let's figure out what's going to work in the future for both of us. And let's just try one thing, and we'll keep trying. Not everything we try is going to work. And that doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means that we're learning what works. We're going up that learning curve, which can, usually looks like this. It doesn't look like that. It usually goes up and down and up and down, but that's okay, because at least we're on that path. And I also suggest strongly that you really want to go to Dr. Ross Green's website and notice that most of the challenges that we face probably fall into these categories. Let me see if I can get this to work properly. I don't know why it's not working properly. Oh, that's where we go. Okay, so here's the list. Is something that's happening, is the infraction that's happening falling into one of these? Oh my goodness, how many are there? 18 categories, 9 on each side. And I just love how this list is all in one place, and you can go, oh yeah, That's because they have difficulty persisting on a challenging or a tedious task. That's why they aren't getting their homework done, or the work done in their class and at the community college, and they have to keep dropping the class. So that's what we need to, focus on is as the problem right there. Or over here, difficulty handling unpredictability, ambiguity, whereas my finger, there it is, novelty, uncertainty, whatever. I mean, this is just a golden list as far as I'm concerned. So you want to go to Ross Green's website and look for the ALSOP, Assessment of Lagging Skills and Unsolved Problems. It'll be in the notes below. Find and download this page and you will go, oh my God, this man knows my children. So I think it's really worth doing, is to get to that point where you can actually figure out what's going on and add it to your list. Yes, have a list of the unsolved problems, that the lagging skills that are happening with your child, your adult child, and then stack rank them and decide which one you're going to tackle first. Because what you'll find is once you tackle one, the other ones get easier to tackle. We got to get to this work, because this is how we train ourselves to accept, and them to accept responsibility, figure out, why it's not working, the regret piece, and then figure out how to repair it and how to go forward with better behavior in the future. So it's forgiving them for things that they've done, but it doesn't mean that we, give them a blank slate and a pink slip and they're done. It means that we really want to take the time to understand what's going on, as Barbara Avila says in her book, understand what's going on from their perspective and our perspective. What are the thoughts? We need to find our thoughts. We need to help them uncover their thoughts, their emotions, how they're acting. We really need to use this problem-solving process that Barbara Avila advocates. And then practice. That's the experimentation piece. Practice the solutions that we come up with together. So if you would like more information about what I think are the 4 problems on both sides, which makes 8 common mistakes that we make when we're systemizing self-reliance with our autistic young adults, please, the link will be in the notes. Please go to my website and download this free PDF. It'll explain exactly what my philosophy is. And then sign up for my free masterclass, which is the 4-part roadmap to systemize self-reliance with our autistic young adults. It's going to work. I know we can do this work together. I know that we can make the world a better place for everyone. We can make the world work for everyone. And we can help our autistic young adults create a life they love that works for all of us together. Bye for now.